Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Christian Stewart. I am the founder and lead financial coach at Do Better Financial. I hope you are trying your best to stay dry on this very rainy Monday in Houston, Texas. I know it's bringing back some not so great memories for those of you who were here during Hurricane Harvey, but thankfully, this rain should not be anything like that. However, there is another hurricane that is currently out in the Gulf, Hurricane Maria. So if you have a relationship with God, I would encourage you to pray. It's already a Category 4, so please pray for the people in the Caribbean. I believe that's the direction it's heading right now. I think it's actually going to bear down on Puerto Rico again, and parts of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. So please pray for those countries as they begin to deal with yet another round of torrential downpours. I also want to remind you, as I did last week, if you were somebody who was looking to help when Hurricane Harvey came through Houston and you either didn't get a chance to, or weren't able to, or just hadn't gotten around to it, there are going to be a lot of people who will still need help down in Florida and also on those Caribbean islands that I mentioned last week. So let's get into today's video. If you have any questions about those things, I do have some different organizations that you can share through. So just let me know. You can either DM me or put a comment in on this video. Today's video is actually going to be about kids and money. So we're a little delayed on getting started with school for sorry, something's weird's going on with my video. Not sure what. I hope you guys can all see me. Okay. We're getting started with school a little bit late in Houston, but I did want to cover kids and money. So one of the number one things that I hear when I ask questions like, what do you want to know about money? What things do you wish you learned in school? People say they wish they learned about money in school, wish they knew more, wish somebody had explained interest or student loans or car payments. They just wish they knew, right? And there's a good chance that your kids are going to end up in that same situation if you don't actively teach them the same things that you wished you learned. Why? Because while it would be nice if school would take care of those things and would teach our kids how to quote unquote write checks. I know people don't write checks anymore, but if people would if they would teach them how to write checks and how to budget and teach them all about student loans, in reality lots of schools aren't doing that. And also for kids, more is caught than taught. Have you ever noticed that kids are really quick to repeat those really bad words you don't want them to say instead of the ones you've been trying to get them to say? That's because they're catching things. They catch the things that you don't necessarily want them to catch because they're watching you. So here's what you should know about money and kids. And this is not just for people with kids. This is aunties, uncles, cousins, older cousins. These kids are watching you, okay? They're seeing what you're doing. They are not, they might be listening sometimes, but they are always watching. I guarantee you they're always watching. So if your kids act like money grows on trees, or if they act like, as my niece did one time, this actually is pretty funny. So they go to the store, my niece wants something, she's probably 3 or 4 at the time, and she asks my sister, hey, can we get this thing? And my sister says, no, we don't have money for that. And she says, well, just use the card. And, at that moment, my sister just laughed because as far as my niece knew, when you needed money, you just used the card and that would solve your problem. It never occurred to her that mommy has to work to put money on that card and daddy has to work to put money on that card. That money comes from somewhere. It's not just a magical, Barbie swipe. Credit approved. I don't know if you remember that, the Barbie mall thing. It was horrible. Credit approved, right? Her money came from literally nowhere. It was a voice in a box. But that's not how our money works. But kids have to be taught those things. So the kids are going to learn about money somewhere, or they'll make it up as they go along, right? So they might learn about money from the Kardashians. They might learn about money from their broke friends because they're all broke. They might learn about money from people who are incapable of telling themselves no. They're definitely going to learn about money from you, or they're literally going to know nothing and figure it out as they go along, and they're going to fall in the same pitfalls that you did. So what we want to do is proactively try to give them the information that we maybe didn't get when we were in school or from our parents. The past is not an excuse. Let's move forward and use what we've got now. Oh, look, now I can see my viewers. Hi, Angel. Thanks for joining us. Erica, Chris, and Phyllis. Thanks for joining us today. All right. So the the most important part I wanted you to know is to keep things age appropriate. When you're dealing with kids and money, you're going to have you're going to expect a lot more from like a 14-year-old than you would from a 4-year-old, right? A 14-year-old is going to have a longer attention span. They should have a better ability to delay gratification, things like that. 4-year-old, you know, they need things right now. If you make them wait more than a couple seconds, they're not paying attention anymore, and they just have short attention spans. Our adult attention spans are starting to shorten now with things like Facebook, and you know, everything's like a microwave, and nobody's used to crock pots or ovens anymore, right? So we got to build that up. So that's the goal. So the first thing you want to do is teach them that money comes from work. Back to the example with my niece. She now knows that, and she's frequently running around going, what can I do for money? Right? What can I do for money? How can I make some money today? Because she knows if she wants something, she needs to get some money for it. And that's where it comes from. So I'm going to encourage you, and this is something that we started using on my family. Hi, Melissa. Thanks for joining us today. To do commissions instead of allowance. Now, allowance is literally, I hand you some money because you breathe, right? That's what allowance is. Commission is just like what it sounds like. Think sales job, right? You work, you get paid. You don't work, you don't get paid. That's it. That's the totality of it. So what you would do, this is a simple way to do it. You would get what they call a chore chart. It doesn't have to be expensive or even bought. You can literally get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, write the chore on one side. So if the chore is cleaning the kitchen, and this would be for an older child, obviously, you'd say cleaning the kitchen, and then on the other side, you'd say commission. And if the amount for cleaning the kitchen is $2 or $5 or $10, depending on your personal budget, you're not going to pay them $50 to clean the kitchen, because that's ridiculous. That's not how much cleaning the kitchen is worth, unless they do a really good job. That's up to you. Anyway, and you're going to keep going like that. Clean your room, sweep this, take that out. Now, some things that you're going to put on this list are things that they're going to get paid for. So if they don't get done, right, they obviously don't get paid. But there are going to be some chores that you're just not going to put on this list. Like they need to take a shower. Like that might be a chore that you'd have for an 8-year-old because they struggle with it. That's something that they need to do, but maybe they don't get paid for it. They just do it because they're part of the family. Clearing the dinner table, things like that. Getting up and doing whatever mom and dad say. Everything's not going to be paid chore, but you want to get some things so that they can get the idea in their head that money comes from work. All right, so we're going to use commissions instead of allowance. Second, we're going to teach them to give, save, and spend. 3 things: give, save, spend. Now, this is how most of us run our lives in general, right? Now, I know a lot of people struggle with saving. That's why we're going to start the kids early, okay? So I'll discuss exactly what this might look like for each age group, but give, save, spend. Those are the 3 things that each kid needs to learn how to do. You want to allow them to make some mistakes, but so some things that they mess up, you want to let them have those consequences that come along with those mistakes while they're in your care, right? While you can coddle them and teach them through it, let them make those mistakes. And then there are some times when they make mistakes, you're going to give them some grace. And we're going to give some examples of that as we go through. I'm going to give you some ideas for different age groups. Last thing is to be honest and open about your finances. Do not freak out, especially my African American community. Please do not freak out on me. Okay, so here's what I mean when I say honest and open. Something as simple as letting the kids see how much the electricity bill is, right? You pay that bill. You might pay it at work. One day, let them see you pay that bill. Let them see that you paid $300 a month or $200 a month or $99, whatever it is, to keep the lights on in the house. Let them know how much that costs. Let them see that, leaving your refrigerator open is running up your electricity bill. Show them things like that at a young age so they get the idea, hey, open the refrigerator costs money. Same thing with grocery shopping. Help them understand how much it costs to feed them. If you can, pay in cash. They understand better than a number on the screen. If you take out a couple $100 bills to buy groceries for the week, they'll go, wait a minute, you spending all that on food? Whereas if it just says $200 on the screen, they're not paying attention. They're already breaking into their food roll-ups, right? So make this an active learning process, and this goes for all age groups. When I say be open and honest, that's going to be age appropriate, but there will be times, or there could be times, where the kids need to know, hey, this isn't going to be happening. Mommy and daddy have had to make some changes. This is how much, expendable money we have. You guys have this much of it, and you guys get to decide what you're going to do with it, but this is all we've got. So if you want to do 35 things and we've got money for 3, choose your favorite 3, right? Things like that. Be open and honest with them rather than trying to kill yourself giving them things that they may not even want. Sometimes you don't even know what they want. This actually happened to one of my clients. They were about to shut off the cable. And you know, they went and talked to the kids, and something had happened to one of the TVs, and so it had been moved out of the house. And so one of the children was really like worried, and like the mom was like, hey, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, I'm really worried about, you know, about the finances, because they had told them, hey, this is going on, things may have to change. And so the client calls me and is like, hey, I don't know how much to tell them. I don't want them to be scared. And I was like, you know what? Ask them what they're worried about. And later on that day, ask the kid what they're worried about. They're like, well, I saw the TV was gone, and I don't want to lose mine, right? And the mom's got all these things running through her head. Oh, the kid's thinking we're going to lose the house. The kid's thinking we're going to lose the car. The kid thought that she was going to lose her TV, all right? So age appropriate, and ask them questions. They might not be worried about half the stuff you're imagining they're worried about, okay? All right, so the goal here, as we're going to go down, we're going to go elementary, middle, and high school, and these are rough frameworks. You want to increase their responsibility and management. Hi, Kathy, thanks for joining us today. Their responsibility and money management skills. That's the goal, is to increase those skills as we work through these age brackets. And you want to give them some more training for delayed gratification, which is something that a lot of us struggle with, right? This is how we end up with $50 payments for our cell phones. Ooh, did I say that out loud? That's a video for later. Anyway, all right, so let's start with elementary. All right, so you're going to have something simple for elementary, right? We're talking maybe 3 or 4, depending on where they start paying attention to money, all the way up to like 9, 10, 11, 12. Again, this is going to fluctuate some. So think elementary school, kindergarten to 5th grade. Let's just round it off. You want to make this visible for them. So I suggest something like clear jars. My mom found one that was like an old pretzel jar. My niece really likes that. Now my niece is kind of weird. She actually likes her money to be flat, but some kids just like to feel like it's full, so you might even want to crumple their money up when you give it to them, okay? So when you're doing chores with like an elementary school student, you need immediate payment. When she was small, one of her jobs was emptying the little trash cans around the house into the big trash cans in the kitchen. So she'd do that, and my mom would literally like go get her purse right then and hand her $1 or 50 cents or whatever it was, and she'd go put it in her bank account right away. Like, my niece is a nerd like me, in case you can't tell. Right? But that instant gratification gets them excited about earning money. Hey, this is how I earn money, okay? Same thing, I would suggest 3 jars. You're going to have a give, save, and spend jar. So what this is going to do is allow them to see, hey, not all of the money I get is for me. Now, when you have a give jar, obviously if you're an evangelical Christian, you give to church. But I want you to give a little leeway to the kids as to how they want to give. For instance, with all the hurricane stuff going on, if your child said, hey, mommy, I want to give my giving money to some organization, allow them to do that, right? We're not trying to be legalistic with this. We're trying to get them to the habit of wanting to give. If they just, if they've saved up some money, you want to give them that second jar, that save jar. You want to put whatever they're saving for on it. And when they're smaller, and as they get older, it can be something bigger, but when they're smaller, focus on things that will take them, maybe a month to save for. So maybe they're saving for a new doll clothes, not American Girl doll, because her stuff is ridiculous, like $50 for a dress, but I digress. Like Barbie doll clothes. So something that costs like maybe between the $5 and $10 range, depending on how much you're paying them for chores, maybe less. Maybe it's, a surprise trip to the dollar store where they can buy 4 or 5 things. But, put it on the jar, on the box, on whatever it is that you're keeping the money in, so they can see what they're saving for, and then have a place where they can write how much money they have and what their goal is. So they can, do some math. This is both things at once. Do some math and figure out, okay, how many more chores do I have to do until I get the amount of money that I need to buy such and such. And then the last jar is spend, which means whatever money you put in spend, you can spend. So here's where we get that let them make some mistakes thing. So if they go somewhere and they say, mommy, I want to get fill in the blank, and you say, how much do you have in your spend jar? And they say, oh, I have $5 and they need 10. Well, they might say, I want to take it out of my save jar. I would encourage you, at least in the beginning, to allow them to do that and then paint the picture for them. Hey, this is what happens when you take money out of your savings. That means it's going to take longer to get that thing that you wanted, right? So that's one thing. With the save jar and the spending, once they get to where they've saved up their money for something, let's say they're going to buy a video game, they're going to buy a doll, whatever it is, they forgot about tax. I'm going to ask you, at least through, 10 or 11, give them some grace on tax. If they've saved 15 bucks and the thing ends up costing $16.42, give them the $1.42. I mean, please. Unless you literally don't have it, then you can't give them $1.42. But if you got the $1.42, just give them $1.42. Okay? We're going to give some grace with this. We're trying to teach. We're not trying to beat them over the head. We're not being Pharisees with this, okay? All right, number 2, if they're in middle school, you might want to still use jars, maybe upgrade to envelopes. Maybe they don't need to see their money as much. Also, maybe they're going to have a little more, so having it in a jar is a little showy. So you might want to get them a wallet, something like that, and then still have your envelopes. You're going to label them, give, save, spend. You can figure out what the splits are when they're small. It's probably easiest to just do it even. When they start getting older and getting more money, you may want to make adjustments so it looks more like, give 10, save 20, and then have the 70 to do what you want. And, you can change it depending on what they're saving for. And obviously have this discussion with them. This is an opportunity for you to teach them more about how you manage your own finances, right? You want to increase time between payments. So for the elementary school students, we're going to pay them immediately. For middle school students, maybe we up it to once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on what kind of student you've got, right? And then you want to give them some more responsibility. So maybe now we're responsible for tax, and if we didn't do our calculations correctly, we have to wait. Maybe we're responsible for school snacks, right? So maybe instead of just allowance to do whatever you want, or commissions for whatever you want, now your commission's a little higher. You're responsible for your school snacks, your after school drinks, whatever it is. Pick something, whatever your kids got going on, pick that thing. Maybe they're responsible for school dances if they want to go. And then when we get to high school, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead, like freshman year, get them a checking account and a savings account. We're about to be big kids, right? In 4 years, they're either going to have a job, like a full-time job, right? They might have a part-time job in high school, which is another reason to get them a checking account. Most places do direct deposit. Get them a checking account and get them a savings account. They need to learn to manage these things. They need to learn the consequences of not paying attention and overdrafting. They need to learn to actually budget, okay? This is the time where we're getting into the more, not complex, but the more responsibility and management piece of raising kids to be good adult money managers, not just raising them to be good kid followers, right? We're not just trying to raise little kid puppies. We want them to be adults when we're done, all right? So get them those checking and savings accounts. If you're a parent who wants to help them and wants to be able to see, you can get them attached to yours. I think at certain ages they actually have to be attached to yours. You may have to have your name on them, but give them, as they get older, give them some room to manage this thing. So if they get an overdraft, they need to be responsible for it. Don't go paying their overdrafts. Don't go transferring money out of their savings for them. They're going to need to make some of these mistakes while you're there to watch them, where you can look and be like, hey, how's your account? They haven't checked. You can give them a heads up, right? And then slowly give them more responsibility. Hey, you need to be checking this account. You need to know how much money you had. You need to know how much is for giving, saving, and spending, and you need to keep track of it, okay? Again, let them feel the consequences of some of this. So maybe you're going to increase the time between payments to biweekly or monthly, or you may stop altogether, especially if they have a job. You're going to want to let them feel more consequences. As they say, give them a little bit of rope. Don't let them hang themselves. That's why you're there. You're still parenting, right? They're not on their own. Don't let them give you that, I'm grown, I got my own account. Say, shh, I can snatch your account, right? Just like I can snatch you. As somebody would say, I can get rid of you and make another one that looks just like you. That's a horrible joke, but still. All right, so let them feel some more consequences. If they run out of lunch money, right, give them that money. Go ahead and give them their lunch money, like for the month or for 2 weeks. And if they run out of lunch money at the end of the month, be like, hey, peanut butter and jelly in the kitchen, right? Same thing. If they want field trips, give them the money for all, like, hey, you need to make that money for your field trip, and if you spend that money before you go, money gone. right? So let them feel some of those consequences, but also give them some grace. So those are the four things you want to do. You want to teach them that money comes from work, teach them to give, save, and spend, allow them to make some mistakes, and let them experience some of those consequences, but also give them grace where appropriate. Last but not least, be honest and open about your finances as age appropriate. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you have any questions about dealing with kids and money, or about the best way to manage your own finances to include the kids, how much you should tell them, if any questions like that at all, if you just need help budgeting because you didn't learn any of this stuff in school, you can email me at christian@dobetterfinancial.com. You can leave me a note in the comments, or you can DM me here on Facebook at the Do Better Financial page. Thank you so much for joining me today. Stay dry this evening, and please continue to pray for those in the path of Hurricane Maria. Have a great night, and I will see you next week.